Okay, I'm working through the AOS checklist of North American birds, which is our definitive taxonomic reference for understanding birds in the Puget Trough region. And we left off in the last video with woodpeckers, order Passeriformes, family Piscidae, and now we're picking up with another interesting group of birds, the Falconiformes. Now, Falconiformes includes our falcons and kestrels, and they're interesting in that they're highly aerial and they're some of the fastest flyers in the world, but it's also interesting in that falcons used to be considered part of the larger group of birds that was considered all of your daytime hunting raptors. This included New World vultures, it included hawks and kites and eagles and the osprey. And so Falconiformes, it has recently, somewhat recently, actually in the past decade, been found that Falconiformes are actually more closely related to parrots than they are to other raptors. And that includes owls, eagles, this sort of thing. And so that's really interesting. They do have some features, morphological features that are more similar to parrots, but it was the genetic data, the large genomic data sets that contributed to our understanding of current taxonomy that really provided strong evidence of this relationship between falcons and parrots. And so within Falconiformes in the Puget Trough, you can find American kestrel and peregrine falcon. They're both pretty readily found in the right kinds of habitats. Scrolling down. And then finally, this is our last order, but I have a lot of families to go through in this order. So I'm going to go through the ones that we can find really commonly. I'm not going to go through every single family that we could find here. The ones of birds, the families that you're going to definitely see birds in. So order Passeriformes are also called perching birds or songbirds, and they're called perching birds because they have a unique configuration of the bones and tendons in their feet, the perching bird foot, and the toe arrangement is 3 toes forward, 1 toe back, although other groups of birds have that same toe arrangement, and it's really the morphology of that foot that all of these birds hold in common. They're called songbirds because these birds tend to have song repertoires for a lot of these species and fairly complex songs compared to the other groups of birds. And so Passeriformes are really interesting. There are 2 major groups of Passeriformes in terms of song, and that's the sub-Oscine passerines, and I'll talk about a few of those. And these are birds that are thought to, for the most part, inherit their song. They don't learn their song from their parents or from their neighbors, but they inherit their song. And so the song, when you document differences in songs, you're documenting different genetic information. The Oscine passerines, which are most of our birds in the order Passeriformes, are birds that actually learn their songs from either their parents or neighbors, but others of their species. And so within the Oscine passerines, you see development of vocal repertoires and lots of variability in the songs that can carry lots of interesting ecological and evolutionary information. So some of our families that are common in the Puget Trough in Passeriformes. We're looking first here at a bunch of tropical groups, many of them just New World tropical groups. Family Tyrannidae, Pacific Slope Flycatcher is going to be showing up any day now, and you'll be hearing it regularly in forested areas. And Willow Flycatcher is another one in family Tyrannidae. So that's a subtype of sub-Oscine passerine. Okay. Virionidae, warbling vireo, can be much more easily heard than seen, but it will be starting to make sounds as spring progresses. And there are some other vireo species that can be observed sometimes. Corvidae are our jays and crows, so Steller's jay, California scrub jay, American crow, common raven, and then reading and looking at northwestern crow is really interesting too, because you can find basically a lot of what we observe around here are hybrids of those species. Okay, hirundinity. These birds are becoming more and more common as spring progresses as well. They're migratory birds, and that includes, these are our swallows and martins. So the purple martin, if you go to the right habitat, you might observe, but there are a lot of tree swallows around right now, violet green swallows and barn swallows. Those are our most common. You may also observe cliff swallows. Parody, these are our chickadees, black-capped and chestnut-backed are our two common species in the Puget Trough. And then Aegythalidae, this is our bush tit. It's an old world group of birds, and there's a similar type of bird in the old world in Europe. Cytidee, this is our nuthatch. And so the one common nuthatch in the Puget Trough region is red-breasted nuthatch. Certheidae, these are our creepers and brown creeper. Certhea americana is the one that we find around here. This is a bird that's really quite common in forest habitats, but it's very much overlooked. So if you get familiar with its little singy song, dee-doo-doo-dee sort of sound, and look for it on tree trunks, you may be able to find it. Okay, and I'll do one more in this video. Okay, troglodytidae. And I include this one in this video because these are our wrens, and wrens are sometimes confused with creepers just because they have mottled brown plumage and decurved bills, but their behavior is really quite different. Wrens, something that differentiates them from other little brown birds are that they tend to have barring on their plumage, and so barring versus streaking. And so if you were to look at the feathers of the birds, the marks that you would see are actually going across the feathers rather than in line with the feathers, so that it looks like little horizontal bars on the tail and some other parts of the plumage. They also tend to move around with their body somewhat parallel to the branches and the ground, and with their tails cocked upright. And so you'll see them sort of, looks like they're leaning forward with their tails upright, and they're really great songsters. And we have Pacific wren and Buick's wren and house wren, all can be found around here. And I'm gonna leave off there and continue in another video.